Add up the recalls hitting just the worst 3 engines on today's list, and you're already looking at well over 2 million vehicles across American roads right now. Cars and trucks that owners bought in good faith, some of them brand new, now facing the very real possibility of catastrophic engine failure. Before we go further, one honest clarification: a vehicle being recalled isn't the same thing as a confirmed failure. Recalls cover the population of vehicles that could be affected by a defect, while actual confirmed failures and complaints are a smaller number within that group, and we'll be precise about which is which as we go through each one. But even accounting for that distinction, the scale and pace of what's happening across the industry in 2026 is genuinely unusual, with recall data tracking firms already projecting nearly 47 million vehicles affected industry-wide by year's end, the highest total in at least 5 years, and vehicle impact numbers already up more than 100% compared to the same stretch of 2025. We're counting down 8 of the worst offenders, and for every single one, we'll tell you exactly what to actually check if you're currently driving one. Starting at number 8, Ford, and this one's less about a single defective engine and more about sheer scale. Ford has already recalled more than 12 million vehicles in the first half of 2026 alone, on pace to challenge its own record-breaking 2025 total when it issued more recalls than any manufacturer in automotive history. And buried within that flood of recalls sits a specific engine failure campaign covering current Bronco, Explorer, and Ranger models described in NHTSA filings as a genuine loss of drive power. With a company issuing recalls at this volume, it becomes genuinely difficult for any single owner to keep track of which specific campaign actually applies to their exact vehicle. If you own a recent Bronco, Explorer, or Ranger, check your VIN directly against NHTSA's recall database rather than assuming a dealer letter will find you first. Number 7. Honda, whose 1.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder has been generating genuine legal pressure over head gasket failures in certain Accord, CR-V, and Acura models. Honda hasn't rolled out the kind of broad warranty extension some owners have been hoping for, though the company has quietly been phasing this specific engine out of its lineup as hybrid powertrains take over more of its range. A slow-motion exit that offers little comfort to anyone who bought one of the affected models new just a few years ago. If your Honda or Acura uses this 1.5-liter turbo, watch closely for coolant loss, white exhaust smoke, or an overheating warning. Classic early signs of a head gasket problem. Number 6. Volkswagen, whose EA8i8 2.0-liter turbo continues a troubled reputation that's stretched across multiple model generations at this point. Timing chain, tensioner failures, and excessive oil consumption remaining the 2 recurring complaints showing up again in 2026 model year vehicles across the Volkswagen and Audi lineup. Proof that a defect pattern this well documented can still persist across generations of what should have been a thoroughly refined engine by now. If you're driving a GTI, a Golf, or an Audi A4 with this engine, staying on top of oil level checks between changes is genuinely one of the simplest things you can do to reduce your own risk. Number 5. Hyundai and Kia, whose infamous Theta and new engine family keeps haunting the brand even as most of the lineup has shifted to newer SmartStream architecture. The Kia Seltos specifically still uses the older engine and continues generating rod-bearing failure and sudden seizure reports in 2026, a genuinely stubborn reminder that a manufacturer switching to a newer engine platform for most of its lineup doesn't automatically retire every single vehicle still built on the older, more troubled design. If you own a Seltos or any Hyundai or Kia product you're not certain has moved to the newer engine family, it's worth confirming directly with a dealer which generation of engine is actually under your hood. Quick pause here, because the next 3 are where the recall numbers get genuinely staggering, so stick around and hit subscribe. If you want us tracking this exact crisis as new numbers come in, we update this kind of story every single month. We're not affiliated with any of these manufacturers either. Everything in this video comes directly from NHTSA filings, court records, and documented recall data. Number 4. Jeep, whose 2.0-liter turbo 4-cylinder in the Wrangler and Grand Cherokee triggered a roughly 100,000 vehicle recall in late 2025 over defects that could cause catastrophic failure or engine fires. Owners have separately reported head gasket failures, cracked cylinder liners, damaged pistons, and turbocharger problems well beyond the official recall population, symptoms that suggest the underlying issue runs deeper than the specific defect the recall itself addresses, and Jeep has already started introducing a revised version of this engine for the 2026 Grand Cherokee. If you're shopping used, a pre-2026 Wrangler or Grand Cherokee with this specific Turbo 4 is genuinely worth a pre-purchase inspection focused directly on this engine's known weak points. Number 3. General Motors 1.2-liter 3-cylinder, found in the Chevrolet Trax and Trailblazer, along with the Buick Envista and Encore, currently facing active class action litigation over catastrophic failure reports. It's a genuinely uncomfortable data point for GM specifically because these are some of the brand's most affordable, highest volume vehicles, meaning a huge number of everyday, budget-conscious buyers, plenty of them first-time new car owners, are the ones actually exposed to this particular risk, a demographic considerably less equipped to absorb a surprise engine replacement bill than the buyer of a full-size luxury SUV would be. Number 2, General Motors again. This time, it's 6.2-liter L87 V8 found across the Cadillac Escalade, Chevrolet Silverado, Suburban and Tahoe, and GMC Sierra and Yukon. GM's own internal investigation identified over 28,000 complaints tied to connecting rod and crankshaft manufacturing defects, including reports of 42 fires and a dozen crashes, including reports of loss of propulsion while driving. After an initial recall covering roughly 600,000 vehicles, NHTSA has now expanded its investigation to nearly 1 million vehicles total to determine whether that original fix was ever actually adequate in the first place, a genuinely significant escalation for a company that had already issued one recall specifically meant to resolve this exact defect. If you own any of these full-size GM trucks or SUVs built in the last several years, a ticking or knocking noise from the engine is exactly the early warning sign investigators have flagged, and it's worth getting checked immediately rather than waiting. And at number 1, the single largest and fastest escalating engine crisis of 2026, the Nissan Rogue's 1.5-liter variable compression turbo. After recalling roughly 500,000 Rogues in the summer of 2025, Nissan came back in February 2026 with an additional recall covering more than 650,000 more, pushing the combined total north of 1.15 million vehicles, making this single engine responsible for more recalled units than any other entry on today's entire list. The engine's complicated variable compression design appears to struggle specifically with high oil temperatures, breaking the oil down until bearings seize entirely, a genuinely sophisticated piece of engineering, adjusting compression ratio on the fly to balance power and efficiency that turned out to be considerably more fragile in real-world conditions than its complexity would suggest. Owners report replacement engines have been back-ordered for weeks or even months, leaving plenty of Rogue owners without a working vehicle for an uncomfortably long stretch. Nissan has at least extended the U.S. powertrain warranty to 10 years or 120,000 miles for affected vehicles, though buyers in other markets are still waiting on similar protection. If you own a 2023 through 2025 Rogue with this engine, that extended warranty is genuinely worth confirming directly with your dealer today, not waiting for a letter to arrive, and it's worth asking specifically whether a loaner vehicle is available given how long replacement engines have reportedly been taking to arrive at dealerships nationwide. It's worth stepping back for a second to ask why so many of these problems are surfacing at roughly the same time too. Because it's not simply bad luck striking 8 different manufacturers independently. Industry-wide pressure to hit tighter fuel economy and emissions targets has pushed nearly every automaker towards smaller, more heavily turbocharged engines, doing more work with less displacement. Technology that's genuinely impressive on a dyno, but that leaves considerably less margin for manufacturing error than the larger, simpler engines of a decade or two ago. A tiny manufacturing defect in a bearing or a connecting rod matters a lot more when that component is already operating near its stress limits under normal conditions, and several of the specific failures on today's list, the Nissan Rogue's variable compression design especially, are direct examples of exactly that trade-off between efficiency and mechanical margin for error. So here's what actually matters if any of these 8 describe something sitting in your own driveway right now. Check your specific VIN against NHTSA's recall database directly rather than waiting for a notification letter, since those can take months to arrive even after a recall is officially announced. And in the meantime, your vehicle is already subject to whatever defect or fix has been documented, whether you've personally been notified yet or not. Ask your dealer directly whether any extended warranty coverage applies to your exact engine and model year, since several of these automakers have quietly rolled out protection well beyond their standard coverage, specifically because of these issues, coverage that isn't always advertised loudly and sometimes only gets applied when an owner specifically asks about it. And if you're hearing any unusual knocking, ticking, or smelling burning oil, don't wait for a scheduled service appointment. Get it looked at immediately, because on every single engine covered today, the pattern is the same. A small warning sign now is dramatically cheaper and safer than a catastrophic failure on the highway later.